I have a heart that breaks for a dying city.
Stop cursing your future. Is not true.
For all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
No government, no political system has ultimate supremacy. Jesus is King of Kings, and it's about time our nation return in humble submission to his lordship.
You are not protecting women. You are authorizing the destruction of 500,000 little women every year.
I didn't start it. But sir, with all due respect, that's the argument of a 5-year-old. I didn't start it.
Right, when the Spirit comes upon people, they go to war, they go to battle, and the enemies of God are driven back and they're slaughtered.
Hello, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politic. Thank you for joining us. We got a great show today. We got Shane Winmeyer coming on from Campus Pride.
From Campus
He's
Pride.
the CEO of Campus Pride.
Whoa.
We also have a distinguished guest. We have King Ginger, a.k.a. Marcus Pittman.
From Apologia Radio.
Our brothers from Apologia Radio who have been
Yes.
super gracious to us.
Welcome, Marcus.
I feel like we owe them money.
Do we?
Like, they've been so kind. Like, I mean,
probably-
seriously, like, they sharing the... It feels... Nowadays, to get somebody to share a post on Facebook is, like, expensive.
How much do we owe you, Marcus?
How about y'all just get some all-access subscribers to sign up, and we'll call it even.
So talk about that real quick.
Yeah, what is that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have about 50 episodes of Apologia TV. We have a bunch of lectures from New St. Andrews Academy and theological lectures and stuff. And it's $7.95 a month, and you get everything.
And go to apologiaradio.com.
Apologiaradio.com,
Awesome.
and you can get all that stuff. It's fantastic, and y'all get some subscribers, and we'll just call it even.
All right.
And the most amazing thing about that is that it's a great deal, right?
We're all looking at we're looking at David like, what?
Yeah.
It's a great deal because it's $7.95.
That's
I mean,
right.
it's easy to spend $7.95 in a day.
Yeah,
That's right.
Like you just go to Starbucks.
Exactly.
And they're like, can I have a small latte?
There you go.
And they're like,
$10.
$7.99. $7.99.
$7.99 and a pound of flesh.
So
Okay, so for our show today, King Ginger is going to join us for the whole show. He's co-hosting with us.
this is dangerous, by the way.
It is super dangerous. Apologia and Cross Politic teaming up.
It is. If y'all sound too Presbyterian, I might get fired. So y'all just
Marcus, there's
I
room
go to
over
a
here.
Baptist church. Presbyterian at a Baptist.
Hey, we won't tell anybody. We won't tell anybody.
Trust me, there's
Okay,
only
no, no,
1,000
no,
people
no.
that listen to this show.
Your secret is safe with us.
So you get to say all the stuff. Mark, I just want you to feel free. You get to say all the stuff that you don't normally get to say on Apologia here at Cross Politic.
Right, where they bleep out all your Presbyterian stuff. They're like bleep 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 because you're saying Presbyterian stuff.
So I want to first, before we get into some news and things, I want to first say hello to our international listeners, especially after we had Boo Boo and Sansanich on.
What good brothers, man.
Those pastors were
where are
awesome.
they at? Where are they at?
So we've had, just for our listeners to know, we've had some listeners in Prague and Malaysia, Turkey, and so forth email us actually looking for Christian fellowship. So if you guys are out there and want to connect with one another.
But there's one guy in Turkey that we're not talking about.
Yes, there is.
And there's another guy in Turkey that we are talking about.
We say hello to both you guys.
Yes. No. We're not saying hello to the one.
Gabe,
We're only saying hello to the other one.
So please email us at crosspolitic@gmail.com if you guys have connections out that way.
And just email us, period.
Yeah, email us, period. Emails for questions.
That's right.
I mean, ask Gabe why he doesn't have a beard. Gabriel, why don't you have a beard?
Oh, man.
Like, don't say anything. Don't say anything.
That's the reason for church discipline.
Seriously. I don't even think you can be a Presbyterian and not have a beard.
No,
man.
No.
Even the Baptists have beards, bro.
Yeah,
I know.
Even Marcus has a beard.
I can grow a strap.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
One of the things
I just go to a Baptist church.
Hey, if you want to ask Pastor Toby questions, ask Pastor Toby at crosspolitic@gmail.com.
Okay, and if you want to ask Chocolate Knox
nothing
how to run a sound system,
yes,
don't send those
how to
emails.
fix it.
How
to fix it.
How to restart a sound system.
Why you got to do that?
I think I was the one that fixed it, though.
Why you got to do that?
It was me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to some news and events. Let's move on. Let's get to some news and events. Marcus, if you would tee off hopefully everyone's been following kind of some of the recent revelations from Wikipedia. Wow.
Wikipedia.
From WikiLeaks.
Same thing.
I have not.
WikiLeaks.
Also, Veritas. Veritas, Marcus, what's the Veritas?
Veritas Project.
Yeah, Veritas Project.
Veritas.
You guys got to check out Veritas Project. There's been basically the gentleman from Veritas Project basically kind of did what David Daldian did and went into Planned Parenthood. Well, this guy went into the Democratic Party and went to some very high up people and got them talking about basically voter fraud.
He recorded this?
He recorded this. Super.
And it's online?
It's online. Veritas Project. And you got to check it out.
What did they say?
He recorded it Dalladin style.
Go ahead, Marcus.
He recorded it David Dalladin style, just undercover camera, and just it was fantastic. He was talking about, there were 2 videos that was released. The first video talks about how they staged the fight for the Trump rally and the protests of the Trump rallies. And then the second video talks about how they bust people in into different states to vote illegally in areas where they need more votes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this
is Veritas Project.
Yes, Veritas Project. You can follow them on Twitter and
then
everything.
What's WikiLeaks?
Marcus, why don't you give us a little on WikiLeaks, too?
What is WikiLeaks? And Marcus, is it even something that we should be paying attention to? Because right now, the media is telling us that... Yeah, he's like, before you even finish, duh.
Yes.
Yeah, because right now, if you look at the media, they're telling us that WikiLeaks is... These guys stole some information, and they're changing it to make it fit their narrative.
Okay, well, no, WikiLeaks didn't steal anything. WikiLeaks, the only thing that WikiLeaks does is they have like an anonymous Dropbox where people in the government can send files and information, and then they release it as press.
So they're giving people
WikiLeaks isn't hacking anybody. They're just releasing documents that people in our government had censored.
So people in the government are dropping it in this anonymous Dropbox, and then WikiLeaks just releases it.
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
So he's a member of the press. So it's the same thing that would happen if New York Times got sent an envelope with documents. They would publish it.
But it's virtual.
Right? So it's just a virtual version of, manila envelope showing up at your desk. So that's essentially all it is.
Thieves.
And
whenever manila envelopes show up in my desk, I immediately blog it. I just put it on the blog. I don't even read it. I just blog it. I just hit publish.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you were a media outlet, you would, right? Yeah.
Now, but the play is, they're saying that Russia hacked or someone hacked and then sent the information over to WikiLeaks.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're really bloodthirsty to find a reason to go to war with Russia right now, and that's really scary. So one of the things that America did was they set up a fake dating website and tried to send Julian Assange $1 million to do a commercial that would say tongue-in-cheek something about, it's hard to find a date when you're trapped in the embassy for 4 years or whatever, and they were going to pay him $1 million, and WikiLeaks found out it was a shell company that doesn't exist, and it had ties to Hillary Clinton, and the plan was to get his bank account information so they could funnel money from Russia to his bank account and then blame him for taking money from Russia.
Wow.
So
now, how do you? Wait. Okay.
How does Marcus Pittman,
yes,
King Jinja, in Phoenix, Arizona, know about this?
What kind of connections does Apologia have over there?
How much money is Russia sending you?
Marcus, we're gonna check your bank account. Putin sending you stuff, ain't he?
Yeah, so that's my job. I'm a producer, so I'm just finding content all day that we can talk about on the show, and that's been the main thing. And you're talking about Project Veritas. James O'Keefe, who made the videos, just tweeted it was today, this morning. He tweeted, third video launches tomorrow, indicts Hillary and Donna Brazile. If I don't make it till Monday, there's a kill switch on the video.
Oh, wow.
So,
hey, all my laughing just kind of went out the door.
Yeah.
That's serious.
Right.
Okay, so now let's get into the Donna Brazile. She recently obviously had some WikiLeaks leaks. And
who is this?
How do you follow that? Donna Brazile? She is the RNC interim chair of the party.
Republican National Convention.
DNC.
DNC. Democrat.
Yes.
You need to put your phone down and listen to me.
I was trying to find this guy on
No
Twitter.
communion for him. No communion for this dude on Sunday.
Marcus
He's
said
done.
something
He's done.
about Twitter, which I thought that was the universal invitation
Pick up your
to
phone.
open up Twitter.
Yeah.
It usually is. I did the same thing.
So let's play this video. Megyn Kelly, Donna Brazile, Marcus teed up.
You say that you play straight up, but I have to ask you because you were accused of receiving a debate question before a CNN town hall where they partnered with TV One, and that you had this question on March 12th. That verbatim was provided by Roland Martin to CNN the next day. How did you get that question, Donna?
Well, Kelly, since I play straight up, and I'll play straight up with you, I did not receive any questions from CNN. Let's just be
Where'd you
very
get it?
clear.
Where did you get it?
First of all, what information are you providing to me that will allow me to see what you're talking about? Everybody
You got the
is
WikiLeaks
leaking
released a
private
March 12th
information.
Podesta email showing you messaging the Clinton campaign with the exact wording of a question asked at the March 13th CNN TV1 town hall debate.
Kelly,
Where did you get it?
As a Christian woman, I understand persecution, but I will not sit here and be persecuted because your information is totally false.
All right, stop it right there, Marcus. Stop it right there.
By the way, this only gets worse.
Yes. Oh my gracious. As a Christian woman,
Look,
She pulled the persecution card.
she pulled the Jesus card. Like, look, let me tell you something. Jesus ain't gonna go for this. Let me tell you. I as I watched this whole thing, I thought to myself, Miss Donna, just say, look, here's the email. I'll show you the email anytime. Come ask me that question. I'm innocent.
Yeah.
Here's the email. They stole it. They messed it. They messed with it. I'm gonna tell you right now. Here's the authentic email that I wrote to them. So whoever's doing this WikiLeaks stuff, they need to stop it
Right.
because they lying on us.
Right. Come out with your
It's not hard.
proof.
This
Yeah,
isn't
not proof.
hard.
if,
Come out with your
if
proof.
WikiLeaks is playing a scam,
Yes.
right? If WikiLeaks is making it look like these are authentic emails, but they're not,
Yeah.
then it's the easiest thing in the world
To just
for
drop it.
Miss Donna
yeah,
to produce
that's right.
the real email and put a lie to WikiLeaks.
It's the same argument that I have with people who say, well, Jesus didn't rise from the dead. I'm like, go find his body then. Find his body. If since you're so
But
sure
here's
about
the
this,
thing.
where's his body? Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. WikiLeaks has been around for 10 years, and they've never one time printed false information. In 10 years.
Until now, Marcus. Until now.
Until now. Yeah, all of a sudden now, everything they do is fake. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So explain, Gabe, this is probably more for you. Explain why it's wrong for her to have a planted question. Like, why is that such a big deal that she has a planted question?
I think Marcus, you probably add to this. I think it just shows how much in cahoots the Democratic Party is with the media. They have the questions.
So what?
Go ahead.
What question was this? So I'm slow. Sorry, I write sermons for a living.
Let's back up. Let's back up for Toby.
I don't have time for. So what question is this?
Marcus, do you remember the question?
I don't remember the question. I think it might have been on the death penalty. If I recall.
Was it at a debate?
So what happened was, to set this up,
town hall, I
Donna
believe.
Brazile got the question from Roland, who's a CNN contributor.
Yeah, he was hosting the town hall, I believe, that night.
She passed it on to Donna. He passed it on to Donna, that question.
Okay.
And then she passed it on to Hillary.
Oh.
Right? So the
okay.
debate moderators are helping Hillary better prep for the debate by actually giving them actual questions.
Okay, but see,
I see.
no one's surprised that CNN is like on their side. No one says CNN.
Yeah.
They did something good for Hillary. You know.
Clinton News Network.
Everybody knows this. So then what's wrong with the media cheering for their person to make them look the very best they possibly can look?
Well, because that's not what the media is supposed to do.
But we already know they're jaded. We already know. We watch Fox or CNN because they feed us.
They're objective reporters.
Yeah, okay.
They're just telling the truth.
Right. See, I listen to Apologia because I know their post-mill.
Uh-oh.
Here it comes.
Pull the post-mill
Slanted
card.
media.
Right.
Post-mill.
So I know they're slanted already.
Chalk Knox.
Right? So
yeah, but see, David, there's a difference between a slant and collusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spell that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
So if you gave Joe McDermott a question, at a debate with like, I don't know, say somebody like JD Hall, I'm just making that up.
JD takes.
And you gave him a question before the debate, and y'all said, "Hey man, I just want you to have a look at this before we go to the debate, so you have a good answer for that." And that's wrong.
That's called collusion.
But you already JD.
Yeah, that is wrong.
That is wrong. And that's wrong ethics.
Right.
That's wrong
Well,
because
it's wrong
but
because they're claiming
Right.
that they're being objective, that they're being
no, they're
neutral.
not.
That they're,
No,
It is.
That's their claim.
They're
That's their
claiming.
claim.
They are claiming that, and they are presenting things as though everything is right there on the fly.
Yeah.
Now, so for example, I think I might have mentioned this on another show, but I sometimes when I go out on campus to preach, I actually have one of my interns there, or actually I've done this with Pastor Doug, Pastor Doug Wilson sometimes. And I'll actually, ahead of time, I'll introduce myself and I'll say, hey, my name is Toby Sumter. I'm one of the pastors at Trinity Reformed Church, here to talk to you about Jesus today. And this is my friend, Ryan or Doug or whoever.
Right.
And they're here and they're going to ask some questions that you might be thinking.
Right.
So I tell them up front that he's a friend of mine. He's asking questions that somebody, but I'm not presenting it like there's just like some sort of stranger in the crowd.
Right.
It's like pretending to be a non-Christian.
Setting up the softballs for you.
Yeah,
if God's so good, then why is there evil in the world?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, thank you, brother. Well,
but so I mean, if CNN or whoever's hosting the debate says, yeah, and we've given the questions ahead of time to them,
right?
There's no problem.
There's no problem.
That's not collusion,
right?
But they're presenting it like these are questions they've never asked them before.
So ultimately, Wiki is trying to say these people.
It's against the debate rules too. It's against the debate rules to provide questions from the candidate.
Okay.
So they say.
So basically, they're saying these people are not being honest with you as far as news sources. They're setting up the candidates to look the best they can because that's who they're.
Right.
Which we already know.
So
yeah.
They're just saying they're not even playing by their own rules is what we're ultimately saying, right?
Shock.
Right.
All right.
Shock.
All right. So last comment on this topic, Marcus, and I want to move on real quick before we close out this episode of this session.
Close out this
session. Is this a session?
That's because that cigar over there is getting to
I know.
Go ahead.
What is that?
All right, Marcus. Marcus, last word.
I'm just happy to be in a session.
All right, go.
Oh, Jeff needs to hear that. Jeff needs to hear that one.
And you're fired.
That was awesome. You're fired. Okay, so this one's important. We're involved in campus ministry here at University of Idaho,
Amen.
Washington State University, and so forth. But Christianity Today did a write-up on basically backing up, looking at the data, and saying that most college students are leaving the church. Most college students.
Yep.
And they said it's no secret. Everyone kind of knows that this is kind of a trend. Lifeway, so they're looking at a Lifeway research study, and they're saying as many as 70% of young adults who are regular attenders of church in high school eventually drop out of the church.
70%.
That are regular attenders of church while they're in high school. And I think this goes back to our Fell U University episode where we talked a lot about this. And I think one of the problems behind this is for one, we're giving our kids over to the government schools to be educated. So as Vodi Bakken says, we're giving our kids over to Rome. No wonder they
become good Romans.
They don't become Romans, right? We give our kids over to Caesar.
And Rome baptizes them.
Yeah, Rome baptizes them. They become Romans.
Yeah.
No shock there. But the other problem is, I would even say,
it's like education works.
Right. Imagine that.
Imagine that. It's like, would you teach our kids?
It's not a failure.
Yeah.
It's actually a
success.
Look, it's a success.
Yeah, it's like we're going to teach your kid not to believe in God.
And why are they winning that? It's like
because they're training them.
They're training them. But I think the other challenge in all this is, or the other problem in all this is because we don't have a real, even those who are sending their kids to Christian schools don't have a long-term view of what Christian education should look like. And there's this weird phenomenon. We see this in our college ministry where kids graduate from local Christian school and they go to U of I, and then it's like they reset. Yeah. They go back into thinking just like all public education, just like they never even went to the local Christian school in the first place.
Yeah. I'm surprised at how many students I meet on campus who grew up in church. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised. I mean, I shouldn't be anymore. And you say, so many of them, but I meet so many kids on campus, and they grew up going to church, And they said, I came to college and now I don't believe in God anymore. Now I went to a science class and now I don't believe in the Bible anymore. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's horrifying how common it is.
This isn't a fail you problem. This is a fail P problem. This is a fail parent problem.
Fail church, fail parent.
Church.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. I fell in love with my parents' God. I wanted to love the God of my parents. So and that changed my life. So we just need to do a better job of baptizing our babies.
And that's why that's why this interview is important coming up.
Coming up next on Cross Politics. Hey, we got more with King Ginger.
Shane Windmeyer.
Baptize them babies.
Get them wet. Get them wet. Canon Press is a publishing house located in Moscow, Idaho. At Canon Press, we create and provide products that sketch a vision of the whole life, a whole culture, a life full of beauty, tradition, education, community, laughter, and celebration, unashamed of Christ, and sharply at odds with the values of modernity. A mature culture with the church at the center, living out the good life, one family at a time. We believe our book, audio, and visual selections reflect this exciting life that God has given us under the sun. As the wisest man said, go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. CanonPress.com.
For 21 years and counting, New St. Andrews College has sought to obey Christ's Great Commission to disciple nations and build him a house, not just in Jerusalem, but throughout the world. Not with stones and mortar, but with living stones. We build and fight. This is the task of a Christian liberal arts college, to equip students with the tools to build and fight. And this is our joyful task as we seek to graduate leaders who shape culture through wise and victorious living. To learn more, check us out online at nsa.edu/explore.
Well, folks, welcome back to Cross Politic. I have a special guest with us today. I have Shane Windmeyer here with us. He is a best-selling author. You are also executive director of Campus Pride, and you're based in D.C. Is that correct, Shane?
Actually, no. We're based in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the South.
Oh,
wow!
What got you guys started in North Carolina?
Well, I actually grew up in the Midwest, and I went to school in the Midwest, and my first job was here in Charlotte working at a university. And I am the founder of the organization, along with a couple other of my colleagues. And, there's a lot of work that's necessary in places outside Washington, D.C. and New York and L.A. And so
Imagine that.
I know. And as you know, Charlotte's a great city, and there's been a lot of, stuff happening here in North Carolina lately as well, too.
Oh yeah, you're busy down there, huh? I'm actually a pastor of a church here in Moscow, Shane, and but I went to seminary actually in Greenville, South Carolina. So I spent a little bit of time down in that area.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's good to be here this morning with you all.
Thank you for joining us. So real quick, just tell us a little bit about Campus Pride. What's y'all's purpose? What are you guys doing? Etc. That'd be great.
Sure. Campus Pride, started in 2001 as an online clearinghouse for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender young people on their campuses to help form student groups and to help them, be able to create safer, more inclusive communities. And in 2006, 2007, we became a full-fledged 501c3 nonprofit, which, is obviously a tax code sort of thing.
Right.
But it also changed our organization into a service organization. And we started our leadership camp, which is a 5-day, 5-night social justice leadership camp. We have a program in bias and hate crime prevention that looks at, race, sexual orientation, faith, gender identity, a variety of issues of bias and prejudice. We have a benchmarking tool that helps campuses become more, inclusive with their policy, program, and practices called the Campus Pride Index.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of different work on campuses, roughly about 1,400 colleges across the country. And about 60% of our work is actually based in the South. So we try to do a lot of work in areas that really, need more visibility and, more dialogue.
Yeah. Now, how I became aware of you guys was kind of through your university shame list. And why do you guys produce a shame list? What's it about? What are you trying to accomplish with this? And maybe just tell our listeners, define what the university shame list is also as part of this.
Yeah, so this is the first year we've done a list that highlights the absolute worst campuses for LGBT students, and we called it the shame list. Let me start by saying that Campus Pride, for a number of years now, has been the go-to resource when it comes to finding LGBT-friendly colleges. And so every year in August, we would release like a top 25 or a top 50 list of LGBT-friendly colleges, and they were available in August typically. And it was this year that we decided that because of Title IX and the changes that we've seen on college campuses related to policies, specifically impacting LGBT young people, that we were going to create this shame list. And as somebody who considers themselves, to be a person of faith, a Christian, I felt it was important that we highlight campuses where, because of the campus's religious views, someone can't be LGBT, or they can be discriminated against if they are LGBT, or worst case scenario, the campus has applied for a government, sanctioned right through Title IX to discriminate against a young person who might be gay or transgender. And so this list was meant to bring attention to those campuses because oftentimes, I would say 90% of the times, the students even on those campuses didn't know that the campus had applied for a Title IX exemption. It was oftentimes done kind of by letter to the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. And so that was our goal, was to just bring attention to the fact that there are campuses, that are religiously identified that do openly discriminate against a young person who is LGBT. And so that was released in August of this year, the week after we did our top 25 LGBT-friendly list.
So when you identify yourself as a Christian, and when we use the word shame, we're referencing something that might have some kind of universal application to everyone's understanding of what shame is. Would you agree with that?
Well, I do, and I think language has shared meaning, right? So everyone bases their definition of words based on their shared experience with those words. So it's not fair with any word to say, well, the dictionary says this. We all have our lived experience around certain words. Mm-hmm. And I, as a young person who grew up coming to terms, coming out with being gay, felt a large degree of shame from my religion. At the time, the folks who, I surrounded myself with, that was a huge part of my own negative harm and feeling about myself. So, that language we did choose very intentionally.
Right. Well, I guess I wouldn't, part of what I'm getting at here is if shame has some universal meaning to everyone, I agree with you that there's some context that will come into play based on conversation between me and you, or me and my brother, or whatever, me and my wife. But that also means that there's some positive aspects of shame, right? If someone has done something bad like murder and they feel shame about that, we want them to experience that, right? Because that was not good, and then their remorse is healthy for our society. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the most central point is that the shame list was meant to highlight the absolute worst campuses from our perspective, right? So you have a different perspective, and we all have different perspectives. So I think you are right in that saying, from some people who use the term Christians, because I think one of the things we're finding in our society today is that there are people who are just as Christian as you or just as Christian as me who have different viewpoints on things. And, they base it in their, in their biblical way of looking at the Bible and, looking at what Jesus said, looking at the New Testament, and saying, being gay is not a sin. And that really strikes in the face of other people who are Christian who say something different. And so that's my goal, is to, have a society where we can be Christians and have different viewpoints, and that one aspect of Christianity isn't necessarily spoken to more than in the other.
Shane, I wonder if you could speak to this a little bit more. What's the way forward? I mean, in your perspective, obviously, so I mean, I'll just put my cards on the table. I mean, I would fall into that camp, like you say. I do believe that the Bible teaches that homosexuality is sinful. However, I don't at all think that means that we should treat homosexuals violently or coercively or anything like that. A homosexual person bears the image of God, and I'm required by Jesus to honor and respect that, despite the fact that I do think that the decisions and choices and lifestyle they're living is not according to God's word. So I think that the law should protect homosexual persons. I believe that that anything done to harm them or to treat them unfairly, unjustly, I'd be fully in favor of those kinds of protections. But I guess part of what I'm sensing in our culture, though, is that I believe in freedom of speech too, and so I believe that it's great to have. I think you're fully within your rights to put out a list of colleges that you think are doing a horrible job, and just like I might be free to do the same thing on my end and put out a list of colleges that I think are doing a horrible job, and and obviously they might be
different reasons
and because I guess it's in the same way that I think Nike can say they're the best shoes and Reebok suck, or Gatorade is awesome and Powerade sucks, or whatever. I think there's a certain kind of freedom that people ought to have to say what they think and let people choose for themselves. I guess the thing that I wonder about, though, is using the government to sort of coerce people into agreeing with us. Is that legitimate? Because it sometimes feels like that's the direction people are going, saying, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to get the government, to come and, fine you a lot of money or
take money away,
put a gun to your head, metaphorically speaking at this point, but just, sort of like there's going to be consequences if you don't agree with me. Is that the way forward, do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, recognizing I came on your show today because I believe dialogue is the way forward, right? I think conversation, I think relationships with people, right?
And thank you for
people
that.
Who don't necessarily always, people who don't always agree with you. Like, I can be a friend. I don't know if you've read my history and my background, but I can be a friend to someone who has opposing viewpoints without being opposing people, right? Like, I can listen, I can be there. Some people in our society would say that is, coalescing, that is sitting down and giving in. I'm like, no, it's about having people who challenge you, who make you think differently, who give you, different viewpoints. The way I build relationships are ones that are with people who are different from me. I mean, I don't want to have everyone who's the same. So I'm not answering your question specifically, but I'll get to it. But I just want to make sure you knew that was my personal, calling is really relationships and building love and humanity and respecting everyone's dignity and human worth. And if you have a different religious viewpoint perspective that you biblically justify, that's you, and you can do that. At the end of the day, our organization, what I try to think about are young people, and there's been a lot of harm on the backs of religion. We can call it bigotry, bias, however we want to call it, but on the backs of religion toward, transgender, gay, young people. And some people would say, well, that's not the campus, isn't doing that harm. Well, the policies are, the environment is. And so it's good to hear that you, personally, in your viewpoint, don't feel that gay people should be discriminated against, or I don't want to put it into my words, but like there should be a certain level where they shouldn't be harmed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That hasn't always been the case. That hasn't always been the case from Christian denominations, and looking at, gay people, who have, there's been a lot of organizations that you probably know about who have sanctioned government discrimination, who have called for the killing of gay people in foreign countries, and so it's hard sometimes, right? Like that's why I think our conversation is important, because I get to know you as a person. I don't get to know you as the label that has been called an anti-LGBT Christian bigot, or whatever language you want to use.
Yeah,
but I don't think government's always the answer. Getting back to your question, I don't think government's always the answer, but government can be a balancer when there's not anyone who is paying attention, or who is not recognizing the unfair, unjust treatment of a group of people in society. I think that, again, being somebody who's very compelled to build relationships, I hear a lot of different arguments, and I listen, and then I try to make my own decisions. The shame list, this was our first year of doing it, and we produced a top 25 list for about 9 years now. And so it took us 9 years to say, you know what, we want to come up with the absolute worst campuses, right? And the reason for that is we thought by highlighting the positive work that campuses were doing for LGBT students, that it would help reach more and more campuses. And it has in the middle. So like there's campuses that are public and private institutions, especially in the Midwest and the South, that are doing wonderful stuff, right? And the problem is that students are still, for whatever reason, they have their own personal religious reasons for going to campuses that, are sanctioning discrimination. George Fox University, had a very public incident with a trans student.
Let me interrupt there real quick. When we talk about discrimination, in some sense, discrimination's unavoidable at some level. Meaning that we discriminate. I went to college, and there's kids who got suspended for cheating on their test scores, or cheating on their, there's always some sort of discrimination going on. Now, I also want to maybe preface this pushback with also saying that I think the government has been usually the biggest problem in discrimination, with Jim Crow laws, all these laws in the past. The government's been one of the biggest problems with discrimination. They've legislated it now, but there's a difference between there should be a way of thinking about this that kind of gets at the fundamental issue going on here. For example, we talk a lot about inclusion. Well, at what point do we stop including people? I know at this point we're beginning to stop including Christians now in the dialogue. We have, you're in North Carolina,
and we should point out, so Shane, you're an exception. We're really grateful to have this conversation with you, but there are some people that wouldn't even talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're not welcome to be part of the conversation anymore,
because we didn't get on the bandwagon.
I couldn't get hired at university campuses right now. Let's just put it that way. So I'm being discriminated against.
Right.
But let me also flesh this out further. You're in North Carolina, where you guys are against HB2 in North Carolina. But we also have some of our friends in Oregon, the Sweet Cake bakers, where they've been fined for disagreeing with the government. Right? They've been fined for disagreeing, for not wanting to serve people some cupcakes. But in North Carolina, you have several universities in the last couple months who decided to pull their services out from playing universities in North Carolina. So discrimination happens. It's just what's accepted kind of discrimination given our current culture. Does that pushback make sense, Shane?
Well, I think it's about society, and what we've decided is the norms to humanity and treating people with dignity and respect, right? Like, if my husband and I go to a cake shop, right, which I can't recall the exact details of what the Oregon Sweet Cake, I think it's about selling a cake or cupcakes or something.
Yeah.
And in Oregon, there are laws that say if you're going to have a business, right, that you have to serve customers, right? And there was a certain point at which we decided, which you are well aware of, that serving people of color, you had to serve all customers. It wasn't just about a certain customer. So I think that is something that we're here today to talk about college campuses, which I think are different than private businesses, in my opinion. Even private colleges. Higher education should be a place to go where you hear different viewpoints, where you can prepare yourself for a society that is diverse, right? And so by just having all people like you, that's why I didn't go to a private school, to be honest. But at the same time, there are people who want to go to a private school. So I hear what you're saying. I acknowledge that what you're saying. I have.
Would you acknowledge that I couldn't? Would you acknowledge that I couldn't get hired as a professor in philosophy at University of North Carolina right now? I just want some affirmation, Shane.
I would acknowledge I couldn't get hired at the colleges on the shame list, right? So
right.
But that's the point. Is there's a free exchange in who they want to hire or not. University of North Carolina would not hire me because of actual bias in their policies.
Well, I don't know who you are, your background, or your professional expertise. I think that there are public institutions that have hired people with diverse, different ideological ideas. I think what it comes down to, though, is for an LGBT, especially a trans person of color, a trans young person, there is real direct systemic harm there that has been there for a gay young person to be out. We don't have any employment protections in this country for LGBT young people federally, right? LGBT people in general. There's no employment protection. So you can be fired from your job federally and in half of the states in the country simply for being gay, right? There are protections, at least government, who says that they'll be upheld, but there are protections for people based on their religious faith and values, right? So if we had an even playing field, I would be able to buy into your argument a little bit better, but that's just us talking right now. The shame list, though, just to be clear, the shame list was about identifying these campuses so people know. I'm not saying they don't have the right to do it. I'm just saying people have the right to know this information.
Yeah, and that's a fair clarification, and we don't want to unfairly describe what your shameless is. So I think that's a fair.
Well, some people have argued that I'm trying to say they can't do it or they shouldn't do it. Well, I personally believe that they shouldn't do it, but I'm not going to put those personal beliefs on the backs of these private institutions that this is what they say their values are.
But
so
your goal of
but
your goal of the shameless is definitely to try to get federal funding out of their pockets because you don't like their personal policies. So that's the whole point of the shameless is to highlight that dilemma.
Yeah, I would support the conversation that's going on in California right now around, state monies of the California system. Should those state monies be used that are public tax dollars to fund campuses where a student that is LGBT wouldn't be able to go, right? Wouldn't be able to have access to. Those are public money. So I do, think a conversation. I do think that, federally we should question public taxpayer dollars going to places where not everyone can attend.
So would you support a state like Idaho? Would you support a state like Idaho, who's a little more conservative, making sure federal funding doesn't go towards colleges that are maybe pro-LGBT?
Well, here's the thing. So public money, right? Public monies are meant for the public good. So pro-LGBT doesn't mean that they're anti something else, right? Like everyone should be able to go to a public institution or a private institution that receives public money, which is the big problem here is why are private institutions that by definition are private institutions, whether they be religious or non-religious, receiving public tax dollars?
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that point.
Yeah.
That's where my libertarianness kicks in. But in terms of philosophy and how we're defining where public tax dollars should go, is we're highly discriminatory. And what we're highly discriminatory based on the direction the wind is blowing, meaning that a lot of the definitions that are going around, even with the LGBT community, personal pronouns and stuff like that, it's all coming on from based how I feel about how I should be defined. So you got Rachel Dolezal up in Spokane. She's just an hour and a half from us. She's a white woman, grew up a white woman, and believes, and she feels like she's a black woman. Well, when is this definition of how I feel when does it end? When does the cliff fall off? When does it stop?
And I think actually this goes back, Shane, your point about there were actually two things that I want to follow up on. One is your point about universities should be places where you actually run into the real world, where there's a real exchange of different ideas. I really appreciate that, and I guess in a big way, the question though is, what is you? I think you used the phrase public good. It seems like part of what we're up against though is how do we define that public good? What's in, what's out? What about the Nazis? Do the Nazis, do they get to be part of the conversation too? What about the communists? What about racists? What about pedophiles? And I think that's part of what Gabriel's getting at is like, I fully agree that like, I think human beings should be treated justly and fairly. Absolutely. And across the board, no matter what. But I think there's always sort of an implied morality behind what we mean by good. What is good, and who gets to decide. And if it's just how we feel, I really feel that this is good. Well, how are we going to deny that those deep feelings of goodness to someone? Again, a white supremacist or a Nazi or a communist or a pedophile, that they feel that their deepest identities are fulfilled in these things. I mean, where is the line? It seems like we can't just go off of what I personally feel. There has to be something outside of us that helps us to make distinctions between what is good and what isn't good. Does that make sense, Shane?
I think, first of all, let's acknowledge that we've always redrawn lines, right? So, like, this isn't a coloring book where there's defined lines and then we color within the lines. As a society throughout history, we have looked at our imperfect humanity, right? We've looked at our imperfect government, and we've redrawn lines in order to create a more just society, a society that is inclusive of people. I would like to dismiss your Nazi pedophile comments simply because I think they are extreme. But I know that oftentimes in debates or conversations, we tend to take things to extremes, and I'm trying to look at people who ultimately, give human dignity and respect to each other. I would argue someone who's a pedophile does not do that. Someone who's a Nazi does not give human dignity and respect equally to each other.
Part of the challenge, I'm sorry to interrupt, just I want to throw it out there, is that, like, so if you talk to somebody like 20 years ago,
talked to Joe American 20 years ago, and you had said, what if there's homosexual marriage in America? 20 years ago, liberals said, "Oh, that's so extreme. That's crazy," right? I mean, Hillary Clinton and was saying she did not believe in gay marriage. Less than 20 years ago.
Bill Clinton signed DOMA.
Yeah, Bill Clinton signed Defense of Marriage Act. And so just 20 years ago, people were saying homosexual marriage is an extreme, don't talk crazy.
I wasn't, so just listen to me, I guess.
You win.
We got to talk to Shane more.
No, I'm joking. In all seriousness, I identify as a gay male. I have many friends who have asked and built relationships with me that have been able to learn, be able to understand at a deep level who I am, and they understand that is different from taking on a neo-Nazi ideology, right? Like my identity is different from an ideology. They also understand, I shun even bringing this into the conversation, but the idea of pedophiles, that is really much, most pedophiles are heterosexual in their identity. So, it's really hard to hear that as a gay man, because that's oftentimes been one of those things that kept me in my early, adulthood going I can't be this. I can't, but yet, my identity was gay, and that's what leads young people to suicide and depression who are, LGBT. And for a trans young person today, it's even more difficult because there's scientific evidence that, people are born, with a sex other than just male and female. There's scientific evidence there. There's also scientific evidence around chromosomes. So we are learning about our humanity. We are also learning about, our own values. And, you have Christian values. I have my values as a Christian. I think we live in a world where a democracy, at least in the U.S., where we can share those and as a society have dialogue and conversation that 20 years from now, I want a world that is loving, that is caring, that treats people with dignity and respect. And I think that includes LGBT people. I don't know who else it includes. I can't predict that future.
Yeah. Really appreciate that. Maybe last question for you, Shane. We want to respect your time and really do appreciate you coming on the show with us today. I want to end there maybe with that, just sort of a question for you. What does it mean for you? You say that you're a Christian, and I just want to take that at face value and just ask you, so what does it mean for you that you're a Christian, that you're a follower of Jesus?
As a follower of Jesus, a Christ follower, I have learned so much about my own humanity, about my own imperfection. And every day I try in my life to live in a way that, shines light on Jesus and shines light on who I am and helps young people, particularly young people who I care about, which are not just LGBT, but homeless young people. And I try to put that into my daily practice. I think that's all of our jobs as Christians, regardless of our beliefs in who has, a moral, value. I think all human life has value and dignity. And, as a gay man, I have every right to define myself as a Christian and to believe who I am in body and soul is exactly how God made me.
Shane, I appreciate that very much, and want you to know that really do appreciate you being on the show here. I know it's not maybe the funnest thing in the world to talk to people that are on a different at a different perspective and think very differently. But I really do respect that. I certainly, as someone who professes faith in Christ, I'll be praying for you. I have to be honest. I'll be praying that you change your mind, but I only pray that because I do really care for you, and I hope that one day you might find in Christ both really true, full acceptance of who God made you to be, but also deliverance from, I think, perhaps a lot of misconceptions too. And I say that with knowing that I'm one of those people too, that Jesus has loved me and loved me in my sin and my darkness and died to set me free. And I hope that maybe we can even keep in touch in some way. But really appreciate your time and thanks for your kindness and coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Shane.
Well, I enjoyed it, so it's not like it was anything rough for me. I mean, I've talked to people with different views on my whole life, so have me back anytime you would like, and we're all in this together, so much love to you.
Hey, thank you so much, folks. You can find more information on their website at campuspride.org. Shane, again, Executive Director of Campus Pride, thank you for joining us. Have a good day.
Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. If you had 1 minute to be able to unpack for the audience, we interview the world's leading apologists to provide credible answers to curious questions.
Dr. Geisler, do all religions lead to God?
All religions don't lead to God for one simple reason. They teach opposite things, and opposites can't be true. Muhammad taught that there's only one person in God, and Christianity says there's three persons in God. They can't both be true. The Bhagavad Gita can't be the Word of God, and the Bible the Word of God. They teach opposite beliefs. And the Book of Mormon can't be the Word of God, and the Bible the Word of God, because they have opposite beliefs. There's only one God, not many gods. So if they all taught the same thing, one, they would be one religion, but the fact that they teach opposites, there are many religions, and opposites can't both be true. And they're on essential doctrines, not just trivial little things. How do you tell a counterfeit? You tell a counterfeit not by its superficial similarities, but by its crucial differences. You don't tell a counterfeit $20 bill because it says 20, it's on paper, it's rectangular. It has some crucial differences than a real $20 bill. So we tell counterfeits not by superficial similarities, but by crucial differences. Superficial to say, we believe in God, we believe in Jesus. Yeah, which Jesus, which God? Crucial differences are their opposite beliefs about God.
Shane Windmeyer. Welcome back to Cross Politic, y'all. CrossPolitic.com.
Go there.
Facebook.
Yes.
/
iTunes.
iTunes. Yes.
Right?
With the podcast. Subscribe.
We
of
are.
Course. Yeah.
You can find us there.
All social media, we're there. Just like Apologia Radio.
Twitter.
Yeah, hit Twitter up.
Cross Politic. At Cross Politic. Shane Windmeyer.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thanks to Shane
for
being on the show. I thanked him on Twitter, and he asked when the show was going to be up, and I told him we'd let him know. So we're gonna
awesome.
So he's listening right now.
We'll tag him and we'll say, "Hey, Shane, thanks for being on the show."
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah.
Yes, and
it's never easy going on to
It was awesome. It was awesome having him on.
Yeah.
We differ significantly.
Mm.
And as I said that at the end of the interview,
right.
I'm praying for Shane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? Everyone out there, be praying for Shane.
Praying
too.
for Shane.
That's right.
Shane, we didn't actually get to talk to Shane about his coming out as a friend of Dan Cathy, the CEO of Chick-fil-A.
Wait, those haters over there?
Chick-fil-A.
Those gay haters?
This is for my wife. My wife loves Chick-fil-A.
But they hate gay people.
My wife is one of those, well, what shall I say? She's a bit obsessed.
With Chick-fil-A?
Have you had Chick-fil-A?
So you know you can go up on campus at the University of Idaho and get it.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
They're here?
Yeah, they're
yes. On the
in
University of
town.
Idaho campus.
Oh,
yes.
You didn't know that?
But it's in the Commons. It's not a full Chick-fil-A.
But they're friends.
We planned
they are.
a summer vacation one year so that my wife could go to Chick-fil-A.
That's a good wife. That's a good wife.
But
you got you a good one, Toby. You got you a good one.
So again, we have
So he became friends with Dan Cathy.
Yep.
Wow.
And has a article, I think, in the Huffington Post about that. We didn't get a chance to talk to him about that. But pray for Shane.
Yes.
Pray that Jesus would get a hold of him.
Yeah.
Amen. Come on now.
And forgive his sins and bring him into the church.
Yes.
But man, lots of people that talk and believe just like him, right? We have lots of friends. I mean, you should have friends.
Yeah.
You should know people who claim to be Christians who are gay, or support those who are gay, in the same kind of situation.
Right.
And we hope that interview's a good example of how to engage,
Dialogue,
but also how not to apologize for the Christian, for God's word and his will for us in our sex life, right? I think a lot of the challenge of this whole conversation is because like Shane was he's pulling the love card.
Oh yeah,
right. He's like it's love. I'm not hurting anybody. It's all about love.
All you need
right?
is love.
But the problem was I was talking to this a student today about this exact same conversation, and the problem is Shane brought up at one point in the interview. He said that LGBT community would commit suicide because they didn't feel accepted. So he's connecting acceptance to suicide.
So this is like a life-saving thing.
A life-saving thing that we accept them, right? But the problem is either they're going to commit suicide here on earth, how he's saying, I want to avoid the suicide here on earth, but instead I'm going to take the eternal suicide away from God in heaven.
Right.
And because you refuse to do what's best for you here on earth, then you're going to get God's judgment in heaven. And the gospel.
Actually,
go ahead.
We call that hell.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
But the gospel is.
Hey, can I
get in here,
can
King.
I just say, I just want to make sure that I just think it's really important that you guys are like out there and you're interviewing people with differing views.
Yeah.
And you're exposing their contradictions and stuff because there's none of that in the media anymore.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, thanks, King Jijo.
And so we need a Christian media that is sharing the gospel with these people who oppose the views of us in a gracious way, but also not letting them get away with their logical inconsistencies and the fallacies of their position.
Yeah,
and so like that's why y'all's show is amazing. Because just the way that you're bringing
where's that organ? Play that organ. Preach it.
It's your organ, and you still have one more week before you get it.
King Ginger doesn't get the organ.
From the organ of the day I'm on the
show. he did something. He's on punishment. Anyway,
I'm in timeout. I'm in timeout from the church organ.
Yeah, we'll bring it back for you.
We brought Marcus on the show just to talk about how awesome we are. No, just kidding.
Well, after what we've been,
I said before the show, we got a real problem when I got my staff coming in talking about how much better Cross Politics is than Apologia Radio. So that's a real.
Ouch, Marcus! Don't reveal who. That's a problem because whoever that is going to get fired. Oh, they so good. Why don't you go work for Cross Politics?
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. You pulled a Shaggy on him. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
But to bring back that train of thought is the gospel is even if the way Satan sets it up is he sets it up in a way that things look good.
He's an angel of light.
He's an angel of light. Things look good, but in the end, as Proverbs says, in the end is death.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we've been fooled. Our society has been duped because we see all these shiny things that we think are good for us. And the gospel comes in and says, no, Jesus is good for you. This is dying to yourself, living to Jesus. This is how you deal with your sexual.
It's so easy too. And like you read the Bible, it's so easy to think that bad guys are just like these like Disney villains.
Right.
Like Disney villains, like are just they're just bad.
Yeah.
And you can tell because of the music. You can tell because they look ugly. Cruella de Vil.
Yep.
Right. Whatever. Yep. The dragons. Whatever. It's like the bad.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, that's bad. And so. But the fact of the matter is that it's easy to identify the villains.
Right.
It's hard to identify with the villains.
Yeah.
To recognize that they got there, and that every single one of us can get there too, if we, but by the grace of God.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Right? So, because that, I mean, and so part of what we're talking about though is how do people get there? Well,
there comes the Oregon.
How do people get there? How do people get to that point? Well, it's because it's in the name of love.
Yeah, that's right.
It's you know, I don't want them to commit suicide. I don't want them to be depressed. I want them to be accepted. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know,
that's why though it's so attractive.
Well, yeah. If Eve would have seen, the villain painted in the same way that we paint the villain nowadays, it would have been easy for her to make say,
this is a bad guy.
This is a bad guy.
I'm not going to listen to the bad guy. Right.
We think that Eve was so easy to see, but no, it wasn't.
He was a glorious dragon.
That's why C.S. Lewis's villains are much more Christian villains than our
Disney?
modern Disney villains, right?
Right.
Because the Queen of Narnia, she was an attractive woman,
right?
They were attractive villains, and to be able to you got to be able to read through, you got to be able to know, you got to know the story, and you got to know, like Proverbs hits home every time I talk about this, because in the end, behind all these doors is death. Right. Behind all these doors is dry bones.
But it doesn't look like that on the front end.
Yeah.
Does not.
And I think we say that and we don't believe it. Like we don't like we say like, oh yeah, it's attractive, but it's not really.
Right.
But we don't realize no, it's going to be really attractive.
Right.
Yes.
And the people that fall for it with a certain kind of genuineness to their belief.
Yeah.
Like this is really for the good of society. This is good for culture. This is saving lives. This is love.
Right. And
good
and
without obedience.
But
right?
but of course it's all defined by their own, by themselves, and by their own feelings.
They've left God's standard.
Right.
Yeah.
And you notice, I think this is something we were talking offline here. Shane, when we were talking to Shane, he was talking like he wanted to work with us.
Oh yeah.
He was talking like he wanted to have a conversation with us.
Right.
But we all know which way the wind is blowing, which direction the wind blowing. We all know which way legislation is blowing, right?
Yeah.
Right. I was talking to Ben. Maybe I shouldn't say his name.
Oh.
I was talking to
Carl.
Somebody.
It was Carl.
Maybe it was Carl. Somebody after that interview about the shame list. And I says, we just wanted people to be aware.
Yeah.
And this person who I talked to said, yeah, what would happen if we published a shame list?
Yeah.
Where the most flaming schools.
Yeah. Flame-friendly schools.
Yeah. And we said, watch out. Shame. What would happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd be attacked.
We'd be like that guy that Marcus was just talking about. It was like, if I'm not here on Monday, here's the kill button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Project Veritas.
Well, and by the way, I just want to pull us. Go ahead, Marcus. What'd you say?
No, I just said we need a kill switch for that list.
Yeah, we do. I just want to pull a side 10 on this. If you don't know who side 10 Brugenkate is, you go on YouTube and
Canada.
Yeah. Type in Precept Apologetics, he'll pop up.
Okay.
I promise you.
Okay.
But the whole time I was listening to that, all I could think of was that this guy has jumped into our vehicle, taken all the good things about Christianity, and is driving our car off the cliff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He wants to put out a list. Yeah. Go ahead. If I'm jump in there, Marcus.
Yeah, I think well, one of the things that somebody said to me about the interview was the man is focused on dominion.
Come on now.
Right? He is. He's focused on full, outright dominion of his worldview for all people, and everyone needs to submit to what he believes.
Exactly.
Right. Or get out.
Including his laws.
Yeah.
It's a gospel.
Right. Absolutely.
And what's really tricky about it is that he does it as a Christian.
Right.
Right. And so all of a sudden what it does for us as Christians is that we kind of step back and say, ooh, all right, how do I navigate these waters?
Right.
Yeah.
And it turns out though that some of our deepest impulses and desires, the things that go way, way down into our humanity, that we find in our humanity, are destroying us. Right. And they're killing us.
Yeah.
And so to submit to them, to celebrate them, to protect them, to defend them, is actually to protect the poison inside us that's going to kill us.
Yeah.
And so this is the grace of God in Christ to come and say, no, I'm not going to let you do that.
Yeah.
I won't do that because fundamentally it isn't what God made you for.
Yes, sir.
And the issue in all this is the reason why our society's thinking like this is because at some point the church stop believing what the Bible said about how to love our neighbor.
Yeah. Or just stop believing the Bible.
Or stop believing the Bible.
I mean, like, stop believing that God is the one who made us. God is the one who gets to define what love is, gets to define what humanity
Gets
is.
to define what shame is.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we've become embarrassed by it.
Oof.
Right. So, we're embarrassed of it, and so we don't want to say it.
Right. So I think.
Well, they're not embarrassed with their definition of love.
Come on now.
No, they aren't. No,
like they're completely happy making sure you know exactly what their version of love is.
Right. They're a lot better at evangelism than we are.
Yes, exactly true.
They can articulate their position better. Their position sounds better, sounds more appealing to the masses.
Oh.
Their idea of love sounds way more palatable, something that you can swallow a lot easier.
And the fact that it so resonates and it seems so powerful is actually indicative of the fact that we've left God's word.
Yeah.
So the church, by and large, is full of emotional sap, right? So our relationship with Jesus and our relationship with God is a bunch of emotional sap.
Yeah, right.
Like I feel spiritual. I feel holy. I just feel it.
No.
You feel it?
No, brother, you're justified.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when
I was hearing the organ play in my head, by the way. Right then, I just heard the organ play in my head.
and then when the LGBTQ RXWXYZ comes along, and says, I feel love.
Yeah.
This is love. I feel accepted by God. I feel we have nothing to say because we've not been defining the love by God's word. We've been defining it by our feelings.
Preach, Pastor. Yeah.
So, well, let's get at that then.
When
I'm talking to an LGBT person and I come to them and they say, well, you aren't exhibiting love by not accepting me.
Right.
And then I turn around and say, no, I actually do love you because I'm against this. I think this sin is destroying you. You think you aren't hurting anybody, but I think you're doing the most damage to yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I get at that in a way that is attractive to that person? The gospel, I don't want to make the gospel attractive in a way that it's not gospel, right?
I love the way this is actually from the what's her name? A King.
Alveda King interview.
Alveda King's interview. Oh my goodness! If you're listening to this and you did not listen to the Alveda King episode,
go back.
Stop now. Stop now. Pause.
Alveda King.
Alveda King.
Go get it.
Go get it now. I love how she said she's talking about the blood guilt of abortion.
Come on now. Yeah.
And she says, "Here's the thing: we're all sinners.
Yep. That's
we're
right.
all wicked. We've all fallen short of the glory of God." And then she says this. There's room at the cross for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's room at the cross for you.
Yeah.
One of the things, too, that Alveda did, and if you ever hear her talk to someone who is considering an abortion, is if you listen to her tone, no one is going to accuse Alveda of not caring for them in the way that she talks to them.
Right.
Well, you're just a hater. You just don't.
Right.
It's like you listen to that woman's tone and you can hear her. She's like, if you're a person who's going to go have an abortion, you hear that, you're like, I'll tell you one thing. I'll do what I want to do, but that woman loves me.
Right.
That woman cares about me, and I can tell by the way she's talking to me.
Right.
And I think a lot of times as Christians, our tone has probably been not so inviting, even though we're saying a lot of the right things, but there's people out there who really could use a good tone with a good message.
There's back to Gabe's question, though. Back to Gabe's question. I would say the answer is the cross.
That's right.
The answer is Jesus. The answer is why did Jesus have to die? Why did Jesus die?
Yeah.
To be a Christian, we're Christians. That means we need the death of Jesus.
That's right.
And that's how we were saved. We're not here preaching something at them, right? We're standing under this good news.
Come on now.
It's for us.
Yes.
And God has had mercy on us. Jesus died for our sins. And we have found forgiveness, we found freedom, we found acceptance, we found glory.
Yeah.
And they need it too.
Well, and I mentioned this to offline also. I was driving down from
all the best stuff is offline.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
No,
Go ahead.
I was driving down from Coeur d'Alene today with a guy in my car who needed a ride down from Coeur d'Alene to Moscow, and we talked a lot about this. And I got to the point where it's like, man, I need to tell this guy about the cross.
Right.
And we had this thick conversation about politics, LGBT issues, diversity, and all that stuff.
The reason why God gave us Trump and Hillary is so that we would talk about Jesus more.
Yeah. You can go from right? Trump and Hillary to the gospel.
Trump and Hillary to gospel.
All right, just that was all right.
There we go. But I got to the cross point. Like I thought I made all these great points about hypocrisy, LGBT diversity, when it's not really diverse, when they don't care about Christians,
right,
blah blah.
Right.
You know, and then Trump and Hillary, I thought I was doing really good. And I started talking about the cross, and I was like, it felt like this needs to be about love. I felt like I need to go take their story,
right,
their story of love, and tie it into the cross.
Yeah, I love that's how Pastor Toby goes up to the campus. Like, Lord, I'm gonna go up here and preach. You're gonna think that I'm talking about hate. They're gonna think I'm talking about hate.
Right.
But Lord, help me talk about love.
The
Let
cross,
the cross be.
Cross is all about love.
That's all about love.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right? God so loved the world, right?
That
And this is love.
You just
right?
trying to get your organ back today. The cross is about love. God so loved the world. All right. Anyway.
And so I felt like when I got to the conversation about the cross, I started like in my mind, I was like, man, but I should tie it back into love, which you need to do. But I was doing it in a way where it's like I felt like I need to grab his idea of love.
Yeah.
And everything
and then
I started thinking while I was talking to the guy, I started thinking, I was like, I just need to tell him, look, man, I said, there's two things we all have in common in this world. We all sin and we all die.
Yeah.
And if we all sin and we all die, that's a problem.
Right.
Right. And the only solution to this problem is the cross. And then from there, once you get the cross right, then you could figure out how to love everyone, how to love your neighbor.
Right.
And so it was just kind of an odd moment where he was talking. He kind of initially took the hill.
Yeah.
And then I started talking about the cross, and I felt like okay, this isn't the best answer. And I was like, no, that's
exactly the answer.
That's exactly the answer.
And don't forget, there's something supernatural when you start talking about Jesus.
Right.
You know,
right.
There's something supernatural that happens.
And this is love, not that we loved God, but that God loved us and sent his son as a propitiation for our sins.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
So that's love. And so when we receive that love, that's what enables us to begin talking about what love is.
Oh.
But if we don't have that, then everything else we come up with, who knows?
King Ginger, he just turned into, he just enjoyed listening to the show. He just listened to the show. He's like, this is good. He's a little popcorn.
I'm just getting that preaching in right now.
Hey, before we go, Marcus, wrap us up with what's going down at Apologia Radio.
Oh, we started a new web series called The Studio. It's like a mockumentary, like The Office. That's a fun 4-minute sketch show that we started because Christians can laugh.
You know what I mean? Like, and I just want you to know right now, y'all ruined my life by not having an episode up this week. My kids were not happy with you. We all got together. It was Tuesday, and we grabbed the tablet. We were going to sit down, and there was like, where's the new episode at? Instead, there's somebody telling me, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have an episode. It's like your whole speech of why you don't have an episode took like 3 minutes.
Marcus, I got a curious question.
Episode.
I got a curious question for
Good
you.
stuff. Go check it out.
How long does it take you? How long does it take you guys to record an episode, put together an episode, a 4-minute episode?
We can record an episode. We can record 2 episodes in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're filming 2 episodes in one day. So
4 minutes each.
So go check out. Go check out the studio at Apologia Studios, right?
Yeah, Apologia Studios on YouTube.
There we go. And what else you got going on over there? You guys got so much going on.
Sheologians?
That's right. Sheologians.
Sheologians, yeah. With James White's daughter and Joy from Apologia Radio. That show got the number 2 on iTunes on its first week.
That's
Way to
awesome.
go, Christians.
So right under Joel Osteen. I'm going to say it makes you feel good when you're producing a podcast and you see your podcast right beside Joel Osteen.
Oh, man.
Hey, you guys are doing something right.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus. Hey,
So
brother.
we had Rebecca Merkel on the show today to talk about that. So
Hey, sisters from here. Here we go.
So that's coming out Friday.
All right.
That's
Hey,
coming out Friday.
so go check out more Apologia.
Sheologians.
At Sheologians, Apologia Studios at YouTube, and Cross Politic, of course, at crosspolitic.com.
Check us out at iTunes.
iTunes.
Rate us.
Send us an email,
Give us some
crosspolitic@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. God bless.
Ask Gabe why he doesn't have a beard. What is up?